Well, good morning. You just heard Janice and Elaine's version of Carol of the Bells, which is the beginning of our service. We have not such a huge crowd today, and I suspect I understand why with the weather not being so great. But we will begin at any rate, and I'll even take off my hat. That was a rain hat, by the way. Well, welcome to this sacred time, this community consecrated by our presence and our commitment. I'm Michael Griffith, and I'm your worship associate for the day. Whether you're in the church building or whether you're at home watching our service through the magic of technology, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalists of Transylvania County. Our mission is to support individual spiritual journeys and to promote social, economic, and environmental justice. And in the words of Reverend David Breeden of the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, wherever you come from, however you got here, whatever you look like, whatever you believe, whether you have a bank account or don't, however you are propelled around this building, you're welcome. All are welcome as we strive to live in integrity and justice. Remember that we still are in our next normal mode of COVID protocol, so use the clipboards around your chairs to sign in so that if we have to do contact tracing, we can do that. If you want to get socially distant, you can do so by spreading out. Wear masks at all times, please, in the building. And enjoy the music without singing for the time being anyway. We hope that will finally go away and we can all sing. But you can dance, sway, clap, hum. All of those are fine. Let's exit the building between services to allow for the air to exchange properly. If there's a deep joy or concern in your heart to share with the community, ask an usher for a piece of paper. We'll get it to the Reverend Bob, and he'll include it in his pastoral prayer. Or if you're at home watching on television, do so through the chat box. Here's some announcements. Reverend Bob will lead the Soul Matters packet discussion after the service today. It's at 12:30, and it'll also be available on Zoom. If you need the link, we'll contact Reverend Bob. You're also invited to the solstice service, the winter solstice service, which is the 21st. That's Tuesday at 5:30. There will be a bell service as part, bell singing, and if you have a favorite bell you'd like to bring along to join the bell chorus, please do so. There's also a special Christmas Eve event on Friday at 4:30. There's a Christmas Eve children's service, so join us. There's a no rehearsal pageant. Just bring your children and we'll have carols and readings, stories of Jesus' birth. Dress in layers in case we have to open things up for extra ventilation. We don't know whether it'll be cold or not that night. And then at 6:30, there's a candlelight service with carols and message of the season and a full choir. On Sunday next week, December the 26th, is a pre-recorded video with our guest speaker, the Reverend James Kubal Kumoto, on the video. Now we enter the spirit of worship, with a music video from Janice and Elaine.
Sing for joy, all you people, lift your hands, raise your voice.
opening words of our service began from these words from the Reverend Judith Mannheim with a nod to Lao Tzu. We gather together in this space to honor and understand our lives. We bring our past and would share them, our dreams and would express them. We use words, song, silence, and gesture. Words can't define our lives, but they enable us to reach out to each other, to tell, and to listen, that we may be renewed, connected, and unburdened. Apprehend with wonder the lives of those around you, for from wonder into wonder existence opens. Our chalice lighting is from Florence Caplow. Reverend Caplow is the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Champaign-Urbana. She's also a writer, editor, and ordained Soto Zen priest. And here are her words. We kindle this flame, honoring the doorways in our souls, the windows through which we gaze at one another, the balconies where we get glimpses of the sky, the thresholds we stand on this morning, the wondering, hoping, fearing, dreaming. Recall that this is the fourth Sunday in Advent, and so we're going to light the Advent candles following these words from the Reverend Elia Kimler, who's been the minister of the First Parish Church of Groton, Mass. For 20 years and counting. And here's what she says about lighting the candles. We light the Advent wreath candles to help us remember who we are at a time of waiting for hope to get itself born into this world, for love to come alive, and the candle of joy, and now a candle for peace. It often feels like bad timing. Holiday stress levels have risen by now, along with a particular ache many of us feel at this season, a mixture of longing and loneliness, a kind of like homesickness, but for a place we've never been. This year, of course, it's hard to forget we are waiting. We are waiting for a pandemic to stop crashing in waves. We're waiting for an end to sickness and isolation, waiting for justice, waiting for these days of strangeness and sorrow to be over. How do we even think about joy or peace or love or hope when we are angry, worn down, and afraid? The old stories tell us something important about the nature of joy, that joy can break through like a starlight or a candlelight in the darkness, but that it is surrounded by the hard stuff of everyday life. Maybe that makes it all the more precious. The stories remind us that there is still and always joy in the world, and it is for everyone, but it usually comes alongside a struggle. Now the first hymn. hymn number 235, Deck the Halls, a video from Janice and Elaine.
The wisdom I have to share this morning is one I may have even told recently. It's one of those things where you ever have that, things that keep coming back to you. And Mike sent me this story, and he'd found it from something online that Sarah Conover at the UUA site had. And it's like, yeah, well, even if I have said this one before, I'm going to do it again. So here we go. One day, the Buddha and a large following of monks and nuns were passing through a village. Buddha also often chose times like these to teach. And so Buddha began to speak. Now, as Buddha was speaking, one very surly man stood to the side watching as the crowd grew larger and larger, and impatient with the bulging crowds of monks and villagers. This man shouted to the Buddha, "Go away. You just want to take advantage of us. You and your teachers come here to say a few pretty words, and then you ask for food and money." Now, I don't know how you would react to that, but the Buddha was amazingly unruffled by this outburst. Being very calm, the Buddha then asked this man, "Young sir, if you purchased a lovely gift for someone, but that person did not accept that gift, to whom does the gift then belong?" And the young man said, "I guess the gift would still be mine because I was the one who bought it." "Exactly so," said the Buddha. "Now, you've just cursed me and been angry with me. But if I do not accept your curses, if I do not get insulted and angry in return, these curses fall back on you, the same as the gift returning to its owner. Buddha then concluded for all to hear, as a mirror reflects an object, as a still lake reflects the sky, take care of what you speak or act, and that it is for good, because it will come back to you. So that's our wisdom for this morning. How many of you heard that story before? No, so even if I told it, nobody listened. Okay, all right, well now I've told it, so you folks at home too, you can remember this story. Would you call out the name of the person who will be carrying the light out? Come forward, please, and we will stand and wave the children out.
Now we think about the cycle of life. Sharing life's passages among our beloved friends, joy can become a celebration, and sorrow becomes a balm for easing the pain. We now pause to honor milestones and recognize those who need our healing thoughts. If you wish to share at this time, please write down your joy or concern and pass it to the ushers, and Reverend Bob will include it in his pastoral prayer. Or if you're home watching, please put it in the chat box. We once again light a candle for what seems to be the never-ending help that the healthcare workers and others are providing for all of us and who are getting overwhelmed again. We light a candle for all those people in all other walks of life who have often risked their lives to lead us and to keep us safe and to help us get through this perilous time. We light a candle for the generous people who've given gifts for the Transylvania County Children in Need and who have made donations that keep all the charitable and service organizations in operation. We light a candle for all those all over the world who cannot get vaccinated in the midst of this new surge threat from Omicron. And finally, we light a candle for those milestones shared in the online chat. Let's pause for a moment of silence to reflect on the joys and sorrows we have just heard and all those we carry unspoken in our hearts. May it be so, and amen.
I invite you to remain in this moment of prayer. As I say our prayer, I will also weave in some words by Ade Emma Kreba, which were shared on the UUA worship website. Spirit of love and life, we who are gathered here watch the glow of the candles here in Transylvania County, knowing that today across the world, people in the last Sunday of Advent are wondering for their health. Besides those affected by the pandemic, we have those whose elective surgeries may have been put off, may now be making very different plans as they worry about exposure. God of all known by many names, Holy One, it's in sorrow that we implore your intercession in removing the darkness that has descended on this land. Heartbroken and filled with pain, we are on the precipice of descending into our lowest form of despair. Please, lift the veil of hatred, envy, and confusion that may cloud our judgment. May we have the clarity needed to remember that the essence of your love and light resides in each of us. Divine One, it is through faith and grace that we have survived the suffering and despair thrust upon us. May our resolve for justice and healing in a land of suffering people increase. Help us to find hope amidst our perceived hopelessness. Refresh and restore our spirits. May we have renewed vigor and courage. And Spirit of love and life, may we have the energy yet again to get up again, even as we fall. These, the prayers of our hearts and the thoughts of our minds we hold now. And we say in the names of all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind, amen. Blessed be. Before this service began, the ushers were passing around tags which later in the service we will be using, an offering of our words to place on this tree in relation to today's sermon theme. After that, Mike suggested that the ushers could give you slips of paper to be included in the pastoral prayer. And now I'm asking you for other slips of paper. May you reach into your wallets, your checkbooks. If you haven't got a penny, maybe a hay penny would do, as the song says. Whatever you give of the best of your time, talent, treasure, and trust, we receive now and we say, now let us have the morning collection. We also thank Carlene for the beautiful gift of her music. So sorry it got cut off there inadvertently. No, Catherine, you do not have to bang your head. What is given in love is received with great joy, and we say, thank you. You know, I mix things up oftentimes as a mixture in our religion of all the world's different wisdom, and we hear different voices in the readings we pick, the opening words, and all the bits here. This reading from Stephanie Noble is back in the idea of what we've heard already and going deeper. And yes, Stephanie Noble is author and board member of the Buddhist Insight Network. And here we are on an Advent Sunday, and I've been doing Buddhist stuff, or people from Buddhism a couple of times. But you know what? It all just fits. This is called, in celebration of the winter solstice, do not be afraid of the darkness. Dark is the rich, fertile earth that cradles the seed, nourishing growth. Dark is the soft night that cradles us to rest. Only in darkness can stars shine across the vastness of space. Only in darkness is the moon's dance so clear. There's a mystery woven in the dark, quiet hours. There is a magic in the darkness. Do not be afraid. We are born of this magic. It fills our dreams that root, unravel, and reweave themselves in the shelter of the deep, dark night. The dark has its own hue, its own resonance, its own breath. It fills our soul not with despair, but with promise. Dark is the gestation of our deep and knowing self. Dark is the cave where we rest and renew our soul. We are born of the darkness, and each night we return to the deep, moist womb of our beginnings. Do not be afraid of the darkness, for in the depth of that very darkness comes the first glimpse of our own light, the pure inner light of love and knowing. As it glows and grows, the darkness recedes. As we shed our light, we shed our fear and revel in the wonder that all is revealed. So do not rush the coming of the sun. Do not crave the lengthening of the day. Celebrate the darkness, here and now, a time of richness, a time of joy. For this Advent, let us listen now to our anthem, O Come Emmanuel, with thanks to Janice and Elaine. I so enjoy the beauty of the music. Thank you. In this season of joy, I wanted to touch again on opening our hearts to wonder, the sense of joyousness, and the ways in which we may have to let down, suspend our focus on angry judgment, fears, in order to let the message of joy come through. I am going to be asking you to get rid of some old habits and ways in which you were trained. We're going to do this not only in my asking of you for your hearts and your vulnerability, but I want you to disobey everything you have been told about sitting and being attentive during the sermon. Because you see, we have asked people to make out tags for the tree. And I want these to be hung on the tree while I'm speaking during the sermon. Not to interrupt the music, not to wait in a line and breathe on each other at the end of the service, but just one by one, as if you are in an airplane where the front bathroom opens up, and one at a time you stay in your seat until the moment you see you can move forward. Asking you to do this is one of the most radical things a minister can do. Please get up and move around. The minister has turned off the seatbelt sign. I will try to look at the world and other people with the eyes of a child who knows that they are loved, says this one. I will grieve and let go, open myself to a full new life. I wish to invest this holiday encouraging the present moment and looking for wonder. Every day, I make sure to notice at least 3 things, small particular things that fill me with joy. For example, pink blush on the mountains, the sound of water rushing over the stones, moon shining through the night. And a quote from Tagore, I slept and dreamed that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. Thank you, Mike, for taking those and placing those. Jack Gilbert, in a resource called From a Brief for the Defense. This was brought to my attention by Michael, our worship associate. We must risk delight. We can do without pleasure, but not delight, not enjoyment. We must have the stubbornness to accept our gladness in the ruthless furnace of this world. To make injustice the only measure of our attention is to praise the devil. I told a story once of wisdom literature about the 2 wolves inside of us. And one is angry and hungry, and the other is calm and a companion. And the basic summary of the wisdom is, well, which one is going to keep your attention? And the answer is the one you feed. If you are feeding the messages of what you have as wonder, the places in which you take the time to look for those places of wonder, joy, surprise in those pleasant ways, first we must, like the Buddha said, not accept the anger. Somebody wants to give you the gift of anger, but let them keep it. You may respond with empathy. You may understand that their anger is coming from a place of their own fear, their own defensiveness. But if at all possible, don't take it on. In our society, this is a life or death lesson for people of color who are driving while black. This is a place in which people of color in our society have learned, no matter how many microaggressions, it does no good to show that you will own this. Let the people who are facing you be left without something that will feed and accelerate their fears and accelerate the danger for you, your soul, your life. Now, I don't say that any of us can completely be without letting these things sink in. It takes a lot of discipline to go back to finding the joy, the wonder, the vulnerability, to be in the moment, to be able to get up and take care of yourself. I used the example earlier of the fasten seatbelt light coming off and people being able to get up and go to the bathroom on the airplane. Release. I don't know how your minister's brain went there, but release. Get up, do what you need to do to release. And come back to your seat and breathe a little easier. I've watched you come up again and again. Maybe some of you are holding back. I can't do that. I just cannot come forward. I don't care if the minister said I could. That's okay. That's all right. I ask a lot of this congregation. But do try the other piece. When you are in the moment of realizing your anger, is that anger based in a fear, a sense of vulnerability? Identify what it is you're afraid of. In Buddhist meditation, it's like, here it is, now let it go. Is it sadness at the root of it? Grief? Are you not living in the moment? You're living in the future. It's going to be bad when Omicron comes to Transylvania County. It's going to be bad when something I might imagine would be horrible. What was it Mark Twain said? I have spent many a time in worry about things that never came to pass. Breathe. See what it is and let it go and come back to the moment. Come back to the here and now. When that happens, we have a better chance of, as Jack Gilbert said, risking delight. We need the delight. We need the enjoyment. Our reading this morning said, "Do not rush the coming of the sun. Do not crave the lengthening of the day. Celebrate the darkness here and now as a time of richness, a time of joy." Each of these candles, hope, love, joy, each of these candles and peace are things that we hope for. We light them with the hope of what will come, in anticipation in the midst of the darkness. But the darkness itself can envelope us in ways that allow us to see a pinpoint of light better than we might in the brightest of conditions. I, as your minister, go through this as well. I think about the people who have gone before and grieve. I look at the reports of the northern states being overwhelmed with the wave of COVID, which is sweeping across them. I worry for this congregation. And yet, I watch a child come forth 5 years old for the first time ever to light a candle in a congregation that last year had no living presence to do such a thing a year ago. One small child with one small candle, maybe not even knowing the right path to take, carries a light and a hope. And I see tags on a tree that's been completely bare. And I see the eyes, not the faces, but the eyes of those who are in front of me. And I know that I can make it through. And I know we will be free to move about the cabin. And I know that things will be all right. As our closing quote from Nadine McSpadden, during our darkest moments, still there is hope. When facing our biggest challenges, still there is hope. When all we can do is put one foot in front of the other, still there is hope. When we can't find the way out, still there is hope. When all we can do is to help is to hold someone's hand as they cry, still there is hope. We are the hope for ourselves and one another. Always there is hope. And in this spirit, our closing hymn is number 142, Let There Be Light, again with gratitude to Janice, Elaine, and Carlene for the music provided for this service.
Let them be face to face.
As we extinguish this chalice, carry the light in you out this week. Whether you are back again for Christmas Eve or out and about with family, may that light sustain you until you return again. As I extinguish the helper candle, let us remember the ways in which we are helpers to one another. And we can be a more grounded person in a world that needs the folks who help feed the conditions for hope, love, joy, and peace in this world. Blessings on you all. Amen.
People look east, the time is near, of the crowning of the year. Make your house fair as you are able, trim the hearth and set the table. People stand still to gaze, love the guest is on the way. Furrows be glad, the earth is fair. One more seed is planted there. Give up your strength, the seed to